What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Big Dog Brett, thanks so much for tuning in. So glad you're here tonight. So much to talk about. Got gonna have our our guest back on tonight, Mr. Big Dog Keith. He will be joining this show shortly, I believe. But I also wanted to take this opportunity to go over notes from last week on the games, what I predicted pretty much, and kind of how they turned out. Not as good as we would have hoped, but we won the right ones, so we'll go with that. What's up, guys? All right, so first off, let me go ahead and welcome Jermaine Dunbar Trucking to the show. Thank you, sir, so much for joining the channel, being a member. Dwayne RTR, you too, sir. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. You guys really help the channel here quite a bit. If we get 5 or 6 more subscribers, members, I might be able to buy a cup of coffee. YouTube takes way more than I thought they would. But what can you say? You just got to take the good with the bad. All right, so let's go ahead and point everybody else out in the stream. Rich was first on the stream. How you doing, sir? Roll Tide 24, SEC Dog. Thank you so much for joining the stream. Brad Pitt, always glad to have you, sir. Pinky Finger Taker. I like it. Thank you so much for joining the show. Atypical Gump, Eddie Sewell, and Sean Stapleton. How are you doing, sir? Glad to have you guys on the channel. Quite a show for you guys tonight. I'm going to go ahead and throw down in the comment section here the StreamYard link. What's up, Vibner? Every time I see that name, I think of that Missy Elliott song. It's your anthem. Probably did that way better than I should have. Oh, man. Cannot seem to get the kind of angle that I want here. I don't know if my camera's off or what's going on tonight, but yeah. What's going on, Travis Goff? Glad to have you guys on here. We're starting to get a few more people in the channel here. Normally it takes about 10 minutes or so to get going. As you guys can tell, I've kind of started to add a kind of a ramp-up time to the show to give everybody time to get in. Really appreciate you guys having a little patience. So in the future, if you guys are watching this show secondhand, which means you're not catching it live, you may want to go ahead and skip through the first 5 or 6 minutes just to get that waiting screen out of the way. Okay. Oh, how about it? How's about it, Mr. Travis Goff? How was your evening? How's everybody's evening and week going so far? Yesterday was an exciting day. Got home and had to run to a county hall meeting, and they're apparently raising some taxes in our area. Fortunately, we were not in the loop there, and I didn't know about that until after I got there, but that's fine. Left there on the way back home. Vehicle started making some wonderful grinding, whirring, buzzing, scrubbing sounds from under the hood. That's always a good sign. For those of you who don't know, that's the way it's supposed to sound. And so pulled in the old O'Reilly's there. They slapped on the test machine, and it says, "Hey, your alternator is bad." So it just so happens last night I had to replace the alternator on the vehicle, which on my vehicle is no easy feat. Wish I had more money, I could hire a mechanic. And then got done with that. Drove the car today. Temperature was 80-ish degrees. After a meeting, come out, went to get in the car, went to hit the AC, and no air conditioning. That's a problem. So get back to the house and find out that I had not plugged in the electrical connector, the little pigtail that goes into the AC compressor to tell it to do its job. Voila, problem solved. We have air conditioning again. So all said and done, I hate working on cars. Oh, man, there's been a little bit of smack talk down in the comment section today so far. Let's see. Somebody was talking. Who was it up here? SEC Dog was calling out Roll Tide for something. Roll Tide said, "You so nervous our quarterback scored more in one game than yours will in 3." Sir, we ain't never scared. The fact that you brought it up seems to me might indicate You might be scared. No, what nobody talking about playing Alabama until you jumped in here. I don't know what's going on with you guys. Doing good. Worked a little late, but off now. Make that money, Travis. Make that money, sir. SEC Dog says, amazing how other haters follow UGA more than their own teams. Just saying. UGA definitely has its fair share of haters. No doubt about that. But we do our fair share of smack talking. I think we draw a little more attention. No, they ain't never scared, son. That the SEC in my blood wouldn't tolerate it. I mean, what would you rather have? I mean, let's be honest. Would you rather have a difficult, satisfying game against a top competitor or a complete blowout? I mean, I enjoy the blowouts, but let's be honest, they're not that exciting to watch. When it's 55-0, it's not exciting to watch. But when it's a game like Georgia had against Oklahoma or Georgia had against Alabama, where it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, those are some of the best games to watch. Husker Gray said, not making that mistake again, picking picking anybody else in the SEC. Learned his lesson, picking the dogs for the W. What's going on, Reasonable Gump? He says, laughing out loud, don't try and deny it, Brett. Both Georgia and Bama fans have done nothing but talk about the game in 2 weeks, all week, and Jamie Newman, of course. Well, yeah, I mean, who else are you going to talk about, right? What, Clemson? Man. I've done a little bit of talk about Miami, though. Miami is kind of surprising a lot of people right now. But is that going to end up being something like Texas, where they come out and they have several good games, and then you find out by the end of the season they're just, got lucky and they're hot trash, referring to Texas from last year, not this year. This year they started out as hot trash. Keith says, what's up, BDB and everyone? You guys show love to Keith Carr. He uploads absolutely random stuff. I think it's called Tagalaga, Tagovailoa, something escaped from something. It's a first-person shooter game. It's actually kind of weird to watch, but it's you got to have a lot of patience to play that game, and I suck at it, so I don't play it. But it is fun to watch. Definitely waiting for Georgia to be in Jacksonville, at Sanford Stadium South, sir. Media says Bama #1, Clemson 2, based on what in 2020? Can someone answer that question? Turn off the TV and play football. Well, long story short, if you look at the way that both of those teams are playing, I don't know how they get those numbers either. I can't even come up with anything for that. It's terrible. Whew. Oh man, we're going to get into the top 10 from this week. We're going to go through the results of last week. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So Dwayne RTR, one of our resident members here, says our passing game is lit, but our O-line needs to open some run lanes. Yes. Georgia had that problem week 1. Couldn't get any lanes open up. Week 2 looks to have been solved. We'll see what's going on. What's going on, Rob Dog? I'm liking the chair, sir. Is there a trend right now that we're supposed to change our logo, our avatar, to the chair in honor of Cade Mays' father's late pinky? Just checking. Is there any chance my Huskers can pull some upsets? Sir, Husker Gray, to be completely honest, if they win any games, that will be pulling an upset. Because for some reason, Iowa State all of a sudden decided they're good. And I don't see you guys beating Iowa, so I don't know. Georgia's going to stomp on the Crimson Tide, but I guarantee they're going to find a way in the playoffs again. Who knows? Who knows? I want to try out some of these other images here, see how this stuff looks. What's going on here? I don't know. Yeah. I'll allow it. Welcome to the stream.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on? What's going on, Keith Bennett IV?
Not much, man. Not much.
Oh man.
Great week. Dogs win, Braves win.
Yeah, that was absolutely a shocker to me, because they were losing that game for a while there, and I really didn't think they were going to be able to come back and pull it out, but they did.
Yeah.
I was
special team this year for sure.
Absolutely, and I think one of the youngest teams we've ever had, if I'm not mistaken. What's going on, Austin Roper? Okay, so I want to kind of go ahead and get this knocked out. I know last week you were tied up; you had limited availability, and I had to kind of plow through without you. My fault entirely because I gave you such a late notice. What's going on, Steve Pearson? So my predictions last week were UF versus USC. I picked UFC. I picked UF. I picked Florida. The spread was 17.5 points, and the over was 57.5. Well, I picked Florida to win, and I said lay the points, which, they didn't make that. They got 14, but they didn't get 17.5. But I said to pick the over, and they did make the over. So that was kind of a win there. And then we had who played Mizzou last week? Oh, yeah, Tennessee. Tennessee was a 12.5 point spread. The over-under was 48. I said take the under. Boy, did I call that one right because the total number was 47. They did cover. And, I mean, that was a total hit. Knocked that one out of the park. Texas versus TCU. I picked Texas. Completely lost on that guess altogether. What's going on, Chess? The over-under of that game was 63. Said Texas by 11.5. I picked the over. I think from now on, I'm just going to pick the overs and unders because I seem to be able to nail that. But I got Texas wrong, but I got the over correct. Looking at Mississippi State, I picked Mississippi State to beat Arkansas. Obviously, that didn't work out. They won. Arkansas won outright. I picked the under. The over-under of that game was crazy. It was 68 points. And I cannot for the life of me figure out why in the world they thought either one of those teams was going to get anywhere near to half that. It ended up being 14-21 Arkansas. Bama versus A&M. I said this was easy money. This was free money. Spread on that was 18. And the over-under was 52. I said take Bama, lay the points, and take the over. If you'd have done that, you'd have hit big. Bama blew them out 52-24, easily covered the over. They hit the over by themselves. They hit 52 by themselves. Cincinnati versus the South Florida Bulls. I said to stay away from that game, but if you had to play that one, I was going to pick Cincinnati, lay the points. They covered that. Over-under was 56. I picked the under. We hit there. So, and then obviously everybody on the planet got the UFC game wrong, so we're not even going to talk about that. But, yeah, for the most part, pretty solid picks last week. You guys come back and listen to the dog, and you might make a little bit of money. Now, not perfect, but I get a lot of this stuff right a lot of the time. 50% of the time, it works every time.
Every time.
So, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about the Georgia Auburn game, and then we're going to start kind of getting into the top 10. We're going to talk about who we think is the upcoming games. Yeah. So, Dwayne RTR, I really appreciate you noticing that, sir. Dwayne RTR says, "Big Dog Brett, we're getting close to 3,000 subs. Do me a favor." Like, subscribe, and share. I love begging you guys for subs. It's my favorite thing to do. I also love begging you guys for joining as members. I go to bed at night and I dream about how creative I can get with. Can you guys please sub? But on the live streams, usually the only people that see the live streams are fans that are already subbed up. Very few times you're going to find anybody who stumbles across a live stream and just joins it for the fun of it. Noah Sheldon 500. Sir, if you have a kid, do they call him Young Sheldon? Just asking for a friend. So, without further ado, Mr. Bennett, what do you think about what's your overall first impression about the Auburn versus Georgia game last week?
I mean, honestly, I was surprised at that game. I thought this was going to be kind of a slugfest back and forth. I thought this one was going to be one of those where me and you were nervous texting in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left, and come down to a field goal. I think I've had that conversation with a bunch of people that I thought this was going to come down to a field goal. Really, really, really surprised at how well we handled them up front. with all the talk about their defensive line and the way we kind of underachieved in that aspect against Arkansas, to see us do what we did to Auburn was very surprising. And when it had the effect of opening up the pass game. When you could run like that, when the offensive line performs and opens up lanes like that, and and you have Zamir White, it didn't really matter who we put in there. Everybody seemed to be getting their yards the old Georgia way, right up the middle. And that allowed Stetson to just pick them apart when he had to. It just was clicking on all cylinders.
So let me move this to this because I keep aggravating with this thing here. There we go. It's better. So I'm gonna bring up an interesting thing. There was a stat that was posted, I guess, about halfway through the third quarter, that 96 out of 120 yards that Georgia had was rushing yards, or of the rushing yards that we had, was run between the tackles. Now think about that. That is a crazy amount of running yards between the tackles. That is really getting some push off the line consistently, repetitively. I don't mind lining up and running the ball as long as it's working, which it was in that game. And then my fear is that in the past, Georgia has gotten into an offensive scheme where it's run the ball on first down like 75% of the times, and then it doesn't work all of a sudden, and now you've got a stagnant offense. What's going on, Stray Dog? Welcome back to the channel, sir. He's one of our members here. Watching Stetson Bennett, he never fails, or he has so far this season never failed to surprise me with his poise. Even when Auburn was getting after him, and there were times when the offensive line broke down or the play broke down, he would roll out of the pocket. He would try to make something out of nothing. He did make a couple of mistakes, but I think all quarterbacks make mistakes from time to time, especially under pressure. That's the reason you bring pressure, try to force those mistakes. But I think for the most part, he looked better than I think Jake Fromm ever looked under pressure. Jake Fromm looked like a folding tent.
Yeah, that there were a couple of plays where Auburn just came after him, and he immediately recognized it and bootlegged out. And I think he hit Karis Jackson. I think it was like a 3rd and 10. He hit him downfield for like 20 yards.
Yeah, well, there was multiple occasions.
Ran from the blitz. I mean, this kid is, I'm not gonna anoint him the greatest quarterback ever at Georgia or anything.
Right.
But as far as pure athleticism, he can do things out there that Fromm never had the capabilities of doing. And I think during that game, at some point in the game, they brought up the point that Arkansas had blitzed Bennett. I think they said 10 times, and he completed 7 passes from those blitzes. So this kid is poised. He's comfortable, and he sees that blitz coming, and he's athletic enough to get away from it and make those guys have to make a great play against him. And I mean, like I said, I just think some of those plays are plays that Fromm would have never made. Not saying that this kid's any better than Fromm, but 240, 250 yards against Auburn in the way that we did it. It's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive when compared to what we've been seeing out of quarterbacks at Georgia.
So one of the things I wanted to point out with Stetson Bennett is this Stetson Bennett does not look anything like the Stetson Bennett that we have watched in past years. It does not look like the same player. He does not move the same way. He does not operate the same way. He is very cool, calm, and collective. He is all about playing it the way he wants to play it. When he goes out there, it's his offense and he knows it.
Yeah.
So to me, watching him play that, I was like, wow.
Well, this is the first time that this team has ever had to lean on Stetson to go out and actually perform. And this kid is, from everybody that's ever talked about him, and in the sound bites that we've got following this game, he is 100% confident in himself, which is something that, I think me and you've had this conversation about Fromm. That was one thing that I think that was a big fault of Fromm's is, I don't know if it was his fault or if the coaches had kind of bred it in him, but Fromm played like he didn't have confidence in himself to make plays at certain times. We've talked about that. I've brought that point up countless times. when Fromm was feeling it, he made great plays. But this Stetson Bennett, he seems like at the very least he's 100% believes in himself and his ability to go out there and perform.
Yeah.
And that goes a long ways when you go out there and you get in these pressure situations. And he's able to just make plays. People that believe in themselves and they're athletically gifted, like he is, can surprise you.
Well, the thing that I noticed is he's not scared, and I can just end the statement right there. He's not scared to throw a ball into a tight pocket. He knows that he can make the throw, and he's confident in that throw. He's not scared, and we've had this conversation many times about Jake Fromm, is that throw the ball up, let your receiver go get it. And he is absolutely confident in his receivers. He has no problem. He's made several good reads. He'd look around the field, find a guy that was open, and then he would put it into a spot where only our guy could get it. He'd put that ball out and he'd say, "You want to go get it." Yeah. And our receivers were showing that they had the capability to go get it. The receiving core this year looks much different in space than they did before, with the exception of the one, maybe two short passes that he threw on the long ball, which Kearis Jackson caught one of.
Yeah, he still caught it. Yeah, he camped under and caught it.
In double coverage, I might add, which proves the point of telling the receiver, "I'm going to give you an opportunity. Go get the damn blame ball." Yeah. So that makes me feel a lot better about our stats. Now, I do want to bring up one of the things that I noticed, because I went back and watched the game. They rebroadcast the game. I watched it again, because the first time I watch it, I'm all up in my feels, and the second time I watch it, I'm analyzing everything. The second time I watched it, Georgia started in the second half. Auburn, I believe, went 3 and out, and Georgia started the second half on one drive. By the time we turned the ball back over, we had eaten up half of a quarter on one drive.
Yeah.
And so that shows me that people say, well, Georgia didn't score any points in the second half. They weren't trying to. They were not trying to strike down the field. They were trying to grind clock, which is exactly what they did. They drained the life out of that clock with 3 possessions, and next thing you know, there wasn't but like 2 minutes to go in the game. And I said, wow. So I'm okay with that.
I think, I think this was a great demonstration of Monken's offense. There were some points that were where, like the play, particularly the touchdown pass to Pickens, the prior play to that, Landers, we'll get in that in a second.
Yeah, that's why I put it up here so we don't forget it.
Yeah. But the touchdown pass to Pickens, if you look at the play prior to that, they had single coverage on Pickens, and Stetson never looked his way.
Yeah.
And then they went right back to that same play, and and they motioned the man off and just threw it out there. Like you said, he did nothing special. I mean, it was a good throw, but he threw it out there and let Pickens make a play after not even looking at him in the prior play.
Yep.
And so I think, Monken kept Auburn completely off balance all night. And, and that's what you're able to do when you can run the ball and you win in the trenches like that. I mean, that's.
Well, I think that this was when you hear an SEC coach with the tenure that Gus Malzahn has, and as much as I like to ride that guy and rag that guy and make fun of him, like he's Beaker, I have to respect the fact that the man has been a head coach in the SEC for many years. He's extremely experienced. He's brought in top 10 recruiting classes. He's taken his team to SEC championship games. He knows what he's doing. For that guy to step up to a microphone and say, I got out coached, because he said that in his press conference, I got out coached. Holy crap. Not only did he admit it, he admitted it for the world to see. And to me, that is a big indication of how good Todd Monken's offense is.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but
that's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do here. All right, so I'm going to allow you to start off the Matt Landers, and then I'll polish off whatever you don't destroy.
Yeah, I mean, like when that play, I think that play right when it happened, I think it was you I was texting with.
Yeah.
That as soon as Landers he made a move and beat the cornerback, And as soon as he beat the cornerback, he quit.
Yep.
It was like, I don't know if he just didn't expect the ball to come to him or what, but I mean, he come off the line aggressive, made a move on the cornerback and had a step on him and then stopped.
He had 2
And
steps. He had 2 steps.
it's a terrible play because it was a beautiful play sitting there waiting to happen. And he just completely dropped the ball. And that was a touchdown pass.
He started jogging before the ball ever got to him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Matt Landers is like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". He's tall, long arms. And with a guy with his kind of speed, 2 or 3 steps, with that kind of reach, that kind of length, that ball was thrown exactly where it needed to be thrown, and he just let it go. And I said, the other guys here are making contested catches in traffic, wrapped up, and you can't get it.
I mean, the amount of effort that you see Pickens make and Burton and these guys and what Jackson was doing, geez, man. And then to see that play with Landers, I've done I've never coached football. I've done some coaching in baseball and things in my day, but that lack of effort, to me, he does not play against Tennessee. If it's me, that play took 7 points off the board. That was a touchdown pass.
Well, not only that, I mean, you can. And
he didn't care. It didn't even look like he cared. He kind of just, you could see as soon as he realized that he messed up, his shoulders kind of slumped and he just turned around and walked off. I mean, he didn't get mad at himself. There was no
emotion.
There was no emotion to realize that. I mean, everybody watching on TV, everybody that was in that stadium saw that and knew that he just messed up. And,
it was like, I'll get the next one.
That, but you got to get up and show some emotion. Be angry at yourself or do something. Show some accountability. Take it. Take credit or take responsibility, I guess. But I don't know. That was a weird play for me.
So let me bring this up to you just so everybody understands. Everybody was looking for George Pickens. I don't know why he didn't get targeted more.
I do. Because Kearis Jackson was showing out. You give it to the hot hand, right? I mean,
I get that, but at the same time, we all know how good George Pickens is. He needs the experience in these big games. And I mean, when you got a number 7 ranked team, I don't care whether they're misappropriated at that rank, they're still ranked number 17 or 7. You need to give him that experience in that big game to go out and be the showboat, so that when we do get in some of the higher profile games, he has that kind of in his pocket. That, earlier in the season, we played against Auburn. I was doing really well against their DBs. But there's something else here I want to bring up real quick. With the performance that Kearis Jackson put up in game 2, that brings his season total to over 209 yards. Think about this now. We're going to play 10 games, maybe 11. If Kearis Jackson stays on the pace that he's on, he will be the first 1,000-yard receiver that UGA has had in many years.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've recently seen an uptick in recruitment of receivers. You look at, I mean, we heavily recruited Hazelwood that ended up going to Oklahoma. Don't know how good he would have been at Georgia, but I mean, it started way back. Going after big time receivers. Burton was a big, Pickens' words himself said that Burton reminds him of himself. Yep. So Georgia has been going after these receivers. And then, when you bring in JT Daniels, you look at what we were going to do with Newman, what we had planned and in recruiting Vandegrift and all these guys, it's apparent to me that Georgia is going to have a 1,000-yard receiver within the next 2 or 3, 4 years. I think going to happen if it doesn't happen this year.
I think it may happen this year. I think that is part of the transition. I think that's one of the things that Todd Monken really wants to stick in his cap as a feather, is that my very first year at UGA, I put a 1,000-yard receiver on the field. Yeah. And that's something that hasn't been done in X amount of years. CJ Keynes 87 says, hit the like button, people. Great content here. Most of the better content exists in the chat section. Just tell somebody Alabama Stucks, and you will get plenty of vibrant content.
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting to really discuss, I guess, or to point out is Georgia has been, and they may have brought this up during the broadcast too, or I heard it somewhere, but it's 100% true. Georgia has been spoiled with receivers. I mean, I'm sorry, with running backs over the past few years. With the Chubb, Michelle, Gurley, going on back. We haven't really needed to rely on a receiver for quite a while, and I think it's clear that at least right now we don't have that at running back. No knock on Zamir White, but Zamir White is no Gurley. He's no Chubb. He's not a Michelle. He's good in his own right, um, but he is not. I don't know that he is a back that's just going to take over the game, run over everybody. I love the heart that kid runs with, but he needs a supporting cast. He needs Stetson to be able to throw the ball in order for him to run, and and I think we saw that against Arkansas. I mean. Um, I think Arkansas's defense is fantastic now after we've seen what they did to us and then what they did to Mississippi State after what we've seen Mississippi State is capable of. So that's a totally different story altogether. But we weren't able to run. He wasn't able to run at all between the tackles against Arkansas's front.
Now, part of that, I have to go. Hey, is it first game jitters? Is it kind of knocking the rust off? We did have a shortened preseason. Because there seems to be a huge jump between game 1 to game 2. I certainly don't expect that big of a jump between game 2 and game 3. But to see that transition happen, the team that we saw on the field seemed way more fluent and way more fluid with the playbook and what they were doing. Norabori 78 says, I want to see more of Milton, referring to Kendall Milton. Kendall Milton was really punching some stuff through there at the end. I was really surprised. I saw some flashes of brilliance. For lack of a better way of explaining it, I feel like once you get late in a game like that and you're just grinding clock, the offensive line is not trying to create these big gaping holes. They're trying to just push off the line a little bit and let you get 5 or 6 yards and do this slow, methodical grind. You're not going to see the bigger, flashier plays happen. But he was still, even with that, what I called reduced effort, you were still seeing, 6, 7, and sometimes 10-yard runs from this guy. And it's interesting because the way that he goes down is not the way most running backs go down. Most running backs go down almost like they hit a brick wall and they stop and they kind of get a yard or so. But he doesn't seem to do that. He seems to kind of like bounce off of people and then dive forward for 3 or 4 yards.
Yeah, he's exciting. I got a chance. They aired a few of his high school games last year or whatever. Got opportunity to watch him, and man, he is. A lot of these kids, you don't know how their game's going to translate to college game, but this kid has the ability to take over a game. And, it's really going to be interesting to see what he's capable of given a year in the program, on the weight training program, the nutrition program, seeing what they're able to get out of him. It's exciting. It's exciting.
So I don't know if you've seen anything about James Cook as far as his injury goes, but I can't find any information. Have you seen anything?
No, I haven't seen anything about what's going on with him.
Apparently Kirby Smart or somebody along that lines asked, how important it was for having James Cook. And Kirby Smart's response was more along the lines of, well, we don't really need him. And I found that to be both insulting and inspiring because it was like, if you've got Michael Jordan on your team and Michael Jordan goes down, that is devastating. But if Bill Russell rolls over there and goes, yeah, man, we got 10 more just like him. We're good. Don't sweat it. I'm like, okay, that's both insulting and inspiring. I like it. All right, let's do it. And it really, even though Cook came out of the game, it did not seem like his presence was, it wasn't a big notice. The offense continued to function. It continued to roll along smoothly. It was a hot swap in players, put in Kendall Milton, put in McIntosh, put in Zeus, and let's go. And that was nice to see. It seemed like the offense had a plan B, plan C. We'll work around it. Not a big deal. In years past, if we would have had DeAndre Swift or Todd Gurley or Nick Chubb go down, game over. It's over because you're not going to count on Jake Fromm to do it.
Well, this Georgia team, like we were saying about the recruiting of the receivers and everything, they have recruited well on offense. There's weapons all over the field. I mean, even at tight end now. Um, there's enough now that if one single thing goes down, we can pivot. And we have enough weapons out there to take up for that. And then, like I said, go back, give credit back to Monken too. I mean, he's experienced enough that he's not going to rely on one player or one, even one scheme. He's ready. I think he's ready and willing to adjust much more than we've even seen in the past. I mean, you just look back even in that first game in Arkansas, how quickly we switched from DeJuan over to Bennett. We've never seen that before.
Yeah,
I've never seen Georgia, not under Kirby Smart, do that.
Oh no, with Kirby Smart, it was ride or die. What's going on, Spencer Cox? Let's run through the update here in the chat menu here, chat list. If you guys want me to call your name out, now is a good time to jump in and throw a comment in. That way I can see everybody who's here. Rob Dog, we got you. Stray Dog, thank you, sir, for joining the channel. Jeff Easternling, sir, I've been seeing your comments. I just haven't responded. Austin Roper, Travis Goff, we got you earlier. Bryson Kearney, how you doing, sir? Spencer Cox, CJ Canes, and there's a lot more of you guys here than just that. So all of you guys, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share, send it to your mom and them, whatever makes you happy. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining the channel. Now we're not going to just talk about Georgia football here. We do a lot of that because that's what we're passionate about. But we're also going to talk about some other things. And right now, I want to go through the ESPN top 25 list. We're not going to go through the whole top 25 because, frankly, once you get past about 10, it's really difficult to actually say who's any good. But I do want to go through this list. I don't know if you have it pulled up yet or not, Keith. Do you have it?
Which list are you looking at?
The ESPN top 25. So the AP poll and the coaches poll, as far as I can see, with the exception of swapping around Penn State and North Carolina, they're pretty much identical up until you get out to the 15 mark, and then they kind of get out of hand. So we'll just kind of stick around the top 10, and we'll pick out a few here and there to fight over. So I'm completely okay. They've got Clemson at number 1, Alabama 2, Georgia 3, Florida 4, Notre Dame 5, the Ohio State at 6, Miami at 7, North Carolina 8, Penn State 9, and then Oklahoma State 10. I'm good with this list up until about we hit number 5, and then we've got a problem.
Yeah, I mean, you can color me salty about this top 10 list, man. I mean, Ohio State, I get it. They're going to play and they're good and all this stuff, but you haven't played a game yet. How in the heck are they better than Miami?
Well, here's my other thing.
I mean,
there is no guarantee that they are going to play.
Yeah, I mean, there's not. I mean, they're not going to play until we see them play. At least, I mean, I just don't understand how they can put Ohio State ahead of Miami at this point. You know what I'm saying? This is 2020. This isn't 2019 or 2018 or 1900 or any other. This is 2020. They haven't played a game yet. How are they ranked ahead of a team who's already beaten a ranked team?
Correct.
I mean, Miami is 3-0 with a win against Louisville.
Yes.
They got to win against FSU too, but everybody else has beat FSU, so I'm not giving credit for that. But they have a win against a top 25 school, and Ohio State is going to slide into the top 10 ahead of them. That is crazy to me, man.
Yeah, I saw this list, and this is the first week they've done that for you who don't know. But I don't see how you can put Penn State, and which I completely agree with the Ohio State. I think this should be like racing. Like, all right, you've got points because you've won laps, but at a certain point, once you go out of the race, You don't get any more points because you're not in the race.
Right.
So whoever finishes the race is automatically ahead. I don't care if you were in first place on lap 7. If you were in first place on lap 100, but you didn't finish the race, the guy that finished the race gets more than you do. So at this point, Miami, they're halfway through the race or a quarter way through the race, whatever. Ohio State hadn't even stepped on the track yet. So how are you putting them above this guy? And the same thing with Oklahoma and Penn State. I get that Penn State may be good, but Penn State may also be hot garbage. Yeah. You've got an undefeated Oklahoma State team here who I think did a very good job against West Virginia. I think West Virginia might be a little bit underrated. But next week they go play Baylor. Baylor's not a bad team. Then they got to play Iowa State, who looks pretty good. Then they got to play Texas, which you don't know what you're going to get. Then they got to play K-State, which killed a giant. And then they got to play Oklahoma. I mean, this is not an easy schedule. It is possible that Oklahoma State, who is ranked number 10, which probably, in my opinion, should be ranked number 5, has one of the toughest schedules in the Big 12 and could easily be a playoff contender. Now, that may not turn out to be the case, but hey, what's going on, Thomas Lee? I really appreciate the super chat, sir. Thank you so much for that. It definitely humbles me when you guys do that. It's very, very flattering. Thank you so much. And it definitely thank you. Yes, sir.
I just, when I look at this top 10, the top, I guess that's 7 teams. Clemson, or I guess 6, really. You can count Ohio State. Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Notre Dame, Miami. I mean, I think at this point in the season, that's pretty unanimous. I mean, I would
even be okay. I would be okay if you told me right now, just hear me out. If you said Clemson, Miami, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Notre Dame, and then say Miami's number 3 because they beat a top 10 team and they have 3 wins. Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Notre Dame only has 2.
Miami's win was not. It was against an 18 rank 18.
Well,
it was
top
a top,
20.
Yeah, it was a top 25 team.
A ranked
it was
team.
A ranked team. They've been a ranked team. So I get the top 5 or 6 teams. I mean, I just do not understand. Like after Miami, when you go down to North Carolina, there's a fall off there. You can even see it in the points they allow, the point allotment that they've given, how they rank this. But after Miami, I guess it's kind of irrelevant at that point. But I think that's where Ohio State should slide into. I'm not a Miami fan. I'm not a big ACC fan, but I am a fan of trying to be fair here. And you got a 3-0 team that's beating a ranked team, and you're going to slide out. If I was the Miami fan, I'd be
hot. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter because, we're going to have to play the games, but it kind of does, though, because this Ohio State team is not going to play nearly as many games as Miami's going to play. Because I'm not sure how big of a schedule the ACC is playing, but they started earlier in the SEC, so I think they're playing like a full schedule.
Yeah.
So if you go ahead and give Ohio State the nod when they haven't even played a game ahead of Miami, what's going to happen when they do start playing games? Is Miami going undefeated going to be able to top an undefeated Ohio State team? You know what I mean? You just put yourself in such a bad position with all this preseason hype with these teams, and they haven't played a game yet.
Yeah, and I think that it's I kind of understand why they're doing it, because they want to try and make sure that it's fair or whatever. But if you come out and you look at the schedule, and just help me out here, if you look at the Ohio State Buckeye schedule, they're currently ranked number 6. It's not likely that they're going to move them if they're willing to put them in at number 6. They start out with Nebraska, then they got to play Penn State, who's ranked number 9. How do you know they're worth being ranked number 9? You don't. Then they got Rutgers, Maryland, the Fighting Illinois, the Sparties, and then they end off the season with Michigan. Guys, there's other than Penn State, there's a number 9 ranked team here. Michigan State may not be ranked at all by the time they get to them, and Penn State may be barely ranked in the top 15. this puts them in the reason I think that they're put here at number 6 is because if they run the gauntlet, it keeps them close enough to saying, hey, college football playoff, we're in the top 5 teams in the country. We can vie for a spot. Because if you look at it right now, if you take the top 4 teams in the country, you've got Clemson and 3 SEC teams playing in the playoff games.
Yeah, I mean, I get I definitely think that Ohio State should be considered as a playoff team, and if they run the table, I mean, I guess we'll just have to see where everything falls. But Miami, like I said, Miami's got a tough game against Clemson coming up. I mean, they're probably going to lose that game, obviously, but it's interesting to see what's going to happen with these Big 12 schools that are just that are able to just slide in here like Penn State and Ohio State into the rankings without having played anybody. It's like you said. I mean, we don't even know how good Penn State is, and they're gonna get credit for playing a number 9 ranked school. I don't know. It's just
here's the other thing, and we had kind of touched on this before. Placing them at number 6 is grossly unfair for 2 reasons. Number one, they haven't played anybody. You don't know if they're any good or not. They may come out and pull LSU and just be hot garbage. You don't know. Number 2, Clemson is playing 11 games. The SEC teams are playing 10 games. They're coming in playing 8 games.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm getting at.
So if you've got a team that's playing, the more games you play, the more likely you are to lose a game. Thus, Georgia versus Carolina. Stuff can happen. There's plenty of teams out there that have had 1 loss. How do you weigh that against a Big Ten team that's only played 8 games?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's grossly unfair. I would not want to be on the playoff committee this year. It's just tough, dude. Oh, and by the way, just so anybody knows, if you can find Gary Danielson and tell him that I never want to hear his voice the rest of my life, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. I can't stand listening to those guys.
This guy during last game, ball gets picked off. Guy's running down the field. Almost runs it back. Najee Harris tackles the guy on like the 17-yard line or something. What's Gary Danielson say? What do you think Gary Danielson said, Keith?
I'm not sure, man. There's no telling.
What an incredible tackle by Najee Harris.
Yeah.
Never mind the defensive player. That your dream in life is to pick off a ball. You gonna ride on that guy like that. That's Kirk Herbstreit is another one that I would not get upset if he suddenly decided to move to the Alps and never appear on television again.
Yeah,
I will tell you though, I was a little bit concerned when Corso picked UGA. Man, that guy's like poison.
Yeah, I mean, it's the game. The Georgia Auburn game was called very well. I mean, I'm not a big Herbstreit fan, but they called the game really well. And if you flipped over, forget what team was playing on like ESPN2 or whatever. I flipped over and was watching that. I can't remember which game it was, but I remember making a comment to a buddy of mine that I was watching the game with was how much of a drastic fall off the commentary was from the main ESPN channel. So those guys do a good job. I'm not the biggest fan of Herbstreit. But calling the game, I think it was him and Chris Fowler that called that game. They did a really good job.
I will tell you that I was really, I'm a guy who likes to let players and receivers, when the ball's thrown downfield, I want to see those guys fighting back and forth. I want to see them jockeying for position. There was quite a few pass interference calls made, but for the most part, they were letting those guys play it out on both sides of the ball. They were letting them grab each other. They were letting them fight for it. That's the kind of football I enjoy. I hate it when you get this, you barely touch a guy, you get a pass interference call. I like to let them get out there and play. This was like the first game in forever where I feel like the referees let those guys play downfield. Hey, Jaquita Jacobs, thanks for joining the channel. Good to see you, sir. Jason S says, turn the TV down and the radio up again. I agree with that. Oh, Keith, I meant to ask you about, is it called Skycam? Is that the other way that they do it, which has the camera sliding across the back and forth the field?
Yeah, you can watch it that way. Yeah.
I heard you could watch that on Hulu, but I don't know if there's any truth to that. I may have to look that up.
Yeah, I know Thomas watches the game that way. Or watches it that way, I should say.
I'm gonna see if I can find a way to record that so that I can download it and then do some analytics with it. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Dave Mendoza says, I must say, dang, Georgia got a defense. Brother, you ain't lying. I'll tell you right now, anybody right now and anybody right now that does not recognize the caliber of that defense is in for a surprise when they play them. Now, it's not saying that's going to guarantee a Georgia win, but I mean, that's to keep Auburn, was it ranked number 7, out of the end zone for 60 minutes. That's tough. They only got 2 field goals. That's tough. I think the game was well played. I think it was well called. I think that the coaching staff put Auburn in a mode where they had to hurry up and try to get on the field and get aggressive, and that makes them make mistakes. I was texting Keith throughout the game. I'm pretty sure Bo Nix qualified for the triathlon because that kid was running for his life. They're going to have to come up with some new penalties for that guy because, man, he throws that ball away. Tank Bigsby, by the way, if you count his yards behind the line of scrimmage, he had a 300-yard rushing game, I believe, because that was some straight up and down backyard football right there.
Yeah, Bo Nix, I know, and it sounds almost like Fromm all over again, right? When all the ESPN and everybody was real high off Fromm. Of course, Fromm, I guess, kind of earned it from playing in a national championship in his freshman year. But going into the sophomore year, I remember ESPN and everybody being really high on Fromm, and we all were. I was too. This is kind of what's going on with Bo Nix reminds me of that. He's getting all kinds of praise, and I just, I haven't watched a lot of Auburn's games outside of when they're playing Georgia or Alabama or whatever, but I haven't been that impressed with this kid. I mean, I think me and you were talking about he scrambles way too early, and they called that out in the game too. That why don't he just step up in the pocket? The pocket's there, but he runs away and tries to make a play too often. He bootlegs out, and he ends up having to make these wild acrobatic throws and cuts off half the field. And it's not necessary. He's got a pocket sitting there. All he's got to do is step up into it and throw it.
Yeah.
But he bails on it so quickly.
The Pastor Dave is one of our resident members here. Thank you, sir, for being a member. He says Tennessee has an O-line this year. They do indeed, sir. It's the offensive line that they have at Alabama. Alabama's offensive line is pretty good too. Dwayne, I beat you to that, sir. We don't put up with that here. There is a lot going on in that offensive line. The problem is that you don't have to just deal with Georgia's defensive line. You also have to deal with Georgia's linebackers. Look at what Georgia was able to do against Bo Nix and that Auburn offense. And you can say their offensive line was not great, and that's fine. But to consistently get through anybody's offensive line like that, to make an Auburn team run for its life that much in the second half, that secondary at Georgia is dangerous. That linebacker core is dangerous, and it's going to be tough for anybody that plays against Georgia to do much.
Yeah, see Pastor Dave about Tennessee's O-line. Yeah, that is a matchup that I am really, really interested in watching. They do, like I said, they do have a good O-line. Georgia's front, defensive front, that battle is going to be fun to watch. You know,
what
it's
it's
going to be
what it's
interesting.
what it's really going to come down to, in my opinion, is who's going to get tired first. I think both of them are pretty evenly matched on a lot of things. Wherever the weakness is, it's going to get exposed, and then somebody's going to have to adjust. But here's the thing, and I when I had Vernon Speak Sports on the channel last week, I told him, I said, the one thing that nobody's talking about is the travel roster is only 70 players. That's 15 players short of what the normal travel roster is. So if you get an injury, which injuries happen every game, and a lot of injuries happen on the lines, in the trenches, they call them that for a reason. Players get rolled up, players fall down, players hurt a knee. What's the drop off after that first line? When you swap out from that starter to that second rotation, what have you got? We played plenty of teams last year that had their front five was good. But the moment they rotated out to give that starter a rest, the weaknesses started to show up. I can tell you, playing, if you're a home team this year, the advantage is huge just because the roster is shrunk. So when you see teams that have really good offensive and defensive lines, you're going to see that they're going to have to cut corners at other places to bring enough depth to make it through these heavy hitting games. Because you got to have a strong O, you got to have a strong D line, and I think that's where you're going to see the difference is whenever you roll to that second set. That's when people are going to get exposed, and I just think Georgia's deeper in that defensive front.
Yeah, Georgia is definitely deeper. With what we've recruited over the past few years. I'm hoping Tennessee's offensive line doesn't have an opportunity to get very tired. A lot of 3 and outs. I think they'll be well rested. Those guys. I mean, they got a good front. I think Georgia's going to be able to rotate in and keep some fresh legs on the defense. Saw a lot of 2-point stances against Auburn too.
Yeah,
line, I haven't seen that. I don't know if I've seen that at Georgia.
I don't know that I've ever seen
memory.
that. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen that. I was really surprised because I started to get mad at first because I thought that we weren't getting set on defense. I'm like, get up there, get set, go, go, go. And then I realized that wasn't ever the game plan.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the depth will show against Tennessee. I think Tennessee's on the way, though. I think you give Pruitt a few years up there. And this is a conversation we've had last year before last. I mean, Tennessee is one of these schools that will not stay down long. No. And the SEC is better when Georgia and Tennessee and Florida are battling out in the East. You want these games to be tight and be tough, be contested against these 3 schools. So I welcome them to get better, and I'm ready for this game this weekend.
Well, for me, I'm certainly ready for the game. I think that what we're going to eventually see is the further Georgia goes through the season, the better the defense is going to be shown off as to what it really is. It's hard to really tout them as being the best defense in the country definitively. You got to have more. You got to have more information. How is Georgia going to do when it's stacked against an Alabama? How's Georgia going to do when it's stacked against a Florida? Now, I'm not worried about Florida, but Florida is certainly one of those teams that seems to have a high-powered offense. We know that teams have traditionally had, at least in the last 3 or 4 years, really struggled against Georgia and trying to run the ball. But how's Georgia going to deal with a passing attack? To me, until I see us have the ability to shut down a team that has a passing attack like LSU, like Florida, I'm not going to be satisfied. I want on offense, I want a good offense. Everybody wants a good offense. On defense, I want a smother you to death. I want you to convert no third downs. I don't want you to get anything but a 3 and out. That's all I want to give you is 3 and out. Here's the ball, give it back. Here's the ball, give it back. Here's the ball, give it back. And unless I see that, I'm not interested. Right now, Georgia is building a name on the defense, and then they're going to add an offense behind it. That seems to have been Kirby Smart's game plan. So to me, seeing Georgia come in and start to bring in the offense now, bringing in a good offensive coordinator. The defense is established. The defense is deep. And now we can build the offense. So at least that's the way I see it.
And I need a shout out to Cochran too. The special teams over the past 2 games has been just remarkable. I think we started off that game yesterday or Saturday with a huge return that brought us out of midfield pretty much. I mean,
Karras Jackson again, sir.
Yeah, and then punting, averaging 50 yards a punt. I mean, this is a well coached team on all 3 phases.
Well, let's address the, as you like to say, elephant in the room. Mr. Mathis.
I was pretty surprised that they didn't give JT Daniels a couple of reps in this game. And I'm not real sure what the point in putting Mathis back out there if he's just going to hand the ball off each time. I mean, I agree that there could potentially be a point in the season where we're going to need Mathis possibly to at least have some experience, have his head in the game, and be ready to play. But man, I don't understand what happens when he comes into the game. Like I say, he didn't get to do much. They didn't ask him to do much. It reminded me a lot of when we brought Justin Fields in,
right?
Just to kind of hand it off a couple times, do like one little run, and then he's done. But it looks like Kirby is. It looks like Kirby is pretty much, banking on getting this guy game ready. He's going to give him opportunities to get some reps in the game.
It did not seem to me, at least to me, that DeJuan Mathis was excited at all about being out there. It looked like that look you get on your face, like your kids give you when you say, "Hey, man, dinner's over. I need you to take out the trash." And I'm like, man, I got to take out the dad blame trash. That's what it looked like to me, man. Now, maybe he was excited to be out there. It didn't appear to be so, but I know the cameraman was waiting on that shot. He was told before the game, if DeJuan Mathis goes in, I want a tight shot on his face when he looks back at that Georgia bench. Hey, Christy, where you been, girl? Welcome back to the show. Christy's one of our favorites. She's been here with the channel a long time. Really appreciate her. Malik Simmons, welcome to the show, sir. He said, Auburn, where that offense? Auburn. I guess he's trying to say Auburn. Where's that offense that beat Alabama last year? In the words of Phil Robertson, he gone. Pastor Dave says that freshman linebacker at Bama is going to be a beast. What was that guy's name? Mitchum? Is that his name? I heard that name a lot being tossed around. You said he was going to be good when you went over his recruiting. If I looked him up, a lot of times when I do those reviews, what I'll do is I'll look at the recruiting class and then I'll go watch highlight tapes on that guy and I'll see what I can find on the internet, and then I'll take my notes and I'll write everything down, and then I make the video and I go through the notes. Kevin Morrow says Dogs 35, Tennessee 17. I can see that. I can certainly see that. One of the things that I'm going to kind of put out there for you guys to keep an eye on is when we get to the third or fourth quarter, if Georgia's winning by 2 scores or 3 scores or more, go ahead and expect Kirby Smart to play the grind the clock game. He doesn't seem to be interested in style points at all. He does not seem to be interested in trying to hang 50 points on the board. The offense may be capable of it. We put up, I think, 27 points in one quarter or 25 points in another quarter. We could have scored 60 points in either game if we'd have played that way full out. I think Arkansas was just rust. And I think that in Tennessee, the game plan was to just grind clock, because when you watched how we grinded the clock, I don't see how you could see it any other way.
Yeah, I kind of expect this Tennessee game to be a little slow at first. I don't know why I feel that way. I think this is going to be one of those games where I could see that 35-17 score, but I could see it being, 14-10 at halftime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of these games where, like we were saying earlier, just Georgia's depth kind of just starts to run away at the end when Tennessee starts to get a little tired.
Yep.
Where, we kind of just start putting it away. I don't I don't really expect us for some reason. I just don't think we're going to get off to the same start that we did against Auburn. I hope we do, but I think Tennessee is going to come in there and they're going to try to slow everything down a little bit, try to keep the game kind of in front of them a little bit. They got a little bit of film to watch from Auburn about Stetson Bennett, so I expect them to kind of hone in and stop that rushing attack a little bit and make Stetson beat him with the arm.
Well,
Which may happen, but
I think
don't
that
we're going to run as easily on it.
I think with the caliber of receivers that Georgia has right now, if you throw George Pickens out there and you throw Karius Jackson out there and you throw Fitzpatrick out there, who's getting the ball? Because you can't double cover all of them. Yeah. Somebody's getting the ball. Somebody's going to make a mistake. And the other thing that I've really noticed is that I'm not using so much profanity at the television whenever it's third down and long and the ball is being thrown 7 yards short of the first down marker. It seems now that whenever it's a pass across the middle or it's a pass to the sideline, the receiver is beyond the first down marker. Instead of trying to get that short pass and then, turning upfield to try and get that first down, that doesn't seem to be the game plan. That's what Coley did. That's what Chaney did. Monken does not appear to be doing that. He appears to be, hey, get past, go find that first down marker and get just past it. We're going to put the ball on you right there. And so I think that's helped Georgia convert a lot.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that Tennessee's Garantano, he's at 249 yards. He's not blowing it out of the water. They have one receiver, which is Josh Palmer, who has 156 yards on the year, and Brandon Johnson. This is their number one and their number two receivers. I don't believe we'll have any problem covering those guys. And they have two running backs they're kind of running a tandem duo here, which is Ty Chandler and Eric Gray. Both of these guys have practically the same stats, roughly 30 carries, roughly 150, 160 yards. So, they're going to try and run the ball, but and that's over 2 games. So you're figuring these guys are averaging together 75 yards per game per running back, which is 150 yards total, and if you shut down those 2 guys, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball really well. I think that's going to force Garantano to try and win the game with his arm. And I think that you're going to start seeing Pick City show up about third quarter. They're going to start to get desperate. Bo Nix threw his first interception in 2 years against Georgia because we got him into that desperate situation. So I think that's probably what we're going to see again.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. I think they're going to be careful early on. They're going to try to, like I said, they're going to try as hard as they can to keep this game kind of contained. But I think the depth on both sides of the ball is going to just slowly kind of nick away at Tennessee until you have a couple of late turnovers. It's going to blow the game up in the third quarter.
Yeah. Let's see here. There was something else I wanted to talk about. What was it? Where's it at? Where's that? Let me find it.
Targeting calls, maybe.
Oh God, do we have to? Okay, we have to. I'm going to read. Let me see. NCAA targeting rule 2020. That way, there's no misconception. NCAA is making a slight change to one of the most controversial penalties in football. Players disqualified for targeting will be allowed to remain on the sidelines, which we knew about that. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. I'm actually going to NCAA.com. Let's see if I can actually read it out. Duplicate numbers. Don't care about that. That's rule changes. I don't need the rule changes. I need the actual rule.
The one against Auburn, I think, was pretty obvious. That one was leading with the crown of the helmet kind of thing, helmet contact. I think that one was fairly obvious. The one against Georgia, I think what they got it on was forcible contact to the neck or head on a defenseless receiver.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I would probably tend to agree that was what happened. However, I just don't understand how you expect these guys to defend plays like he got ejected on. or like
Right.
LeCounte got ejected on. The receiver turned his back to the to the secondary, caught the ball while he was falling to his butt, and shielded the LeCounte with his back. And so I guess you're supposed to just let him catch it and fall to the ground, or are you supposed to drill him in the middle of the back? You know what I mean? Or like
Well, here's
he hit him in the shoulder and neck with his shoulder, and I just don't know. I mean, the only other way to defend that is to just stop and let him catch the ball and fall down, I guess.
well, to me, it's one of those things where it says, forcible contact, you're launching yourself into a play or leading with the crown, to hit a defenseless player to the head or neck area. And the player, they say that, has to catch a ball, has to get his head turned or whatever before he becomes not a defenseless player. It kind of goes back to, in my opinion, the subjective nature of the rule itself. Because if you go back and you actually watch that video, he was starting to turn his head. You're asking two players who are moving at nearly the speed of sound to defy physics and stop themselves once they have launched. Both of these players had made a dedicated course of action, and because one of them was slightly going down or slightly going one way or the other, it results in a collision where even though the player is trying to use his shoulder, he ended up, he hit him in the head or neck area.
Yeah.
The first thing that got hit on the Auburn player was his shoulder. The first contact was shoulder to shoulder and then shoulder to helmet. The intention was not to strike the player in the head because he hit him in the shoulder first.
Yeah.
So to me, I thought it was a bad call. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know if the call was bad as far as much as I think that the interpretation of the rule was just bad. I want everybody to be safe, and those kind of hits are scary, no doubt. But you don't want to get into a situation where receivers are going to start altering the way they catch the ball so that they can be defenseless. You know what I mean? That's the scary part of this rule is, you're going to have these receivers that are just going to kind of lay down and catch the ball and just not expect to get hit because there's going to be a penalty attached to it. But if you look back, one thing that's really encouraging, though, is LeCounte's technique. He got charged with the targeting call, but he did everything correctly.
Yes.
He led with, and if you look back on the Arkansas game, he had another hit that was very similar to that, where he just blew up one of Arkansas's receivers with his shoulder.
Yep.
As soon as that play happened in real time, I was like, man, they're going to get targeting. And they went back and showed the slow-mo, and it's like, nope. I mean, that was beautiful.
That was textbook.
He put it in there on the shoulder just like just like they want you to do. And so it's very encouraging to see LeCounte, because that's one of the things that LeCounte's known for is his physicality and laying the wood like that. And to see a guy like that lead with his shoulder and do it the right way. I mean, he knocked that guy's mouthpiece 5 yards down the field when he hit him.
Backwards, I might add.
Exactly.
Backwards.
Back the way he came from.
Yeah.
That guy. And it looked like a couple of pieces of his helmet flew off too.
I think those were teeth.
Yeah, it was.
I think those were teeth. It was one of those things where if it's not your kid, you back that up and you go, ooh, play it again. I mean, that was a great, yes, Richard LeCounte is a first rounder. Hey, Ballard Sports Media.
I can't, I'm really high on LeCounte. I think he's made a tremendous stride the past couple of years. His ball hawk and
football IQ is off the charts.
And his ability to hit. I mean, to have somebody that can hit that hard and is also a ball hawk like that is.
You want me to tell you who he reminds me of? He reminds me of a faster Ray Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, he is not afraid to get in there and get physical, and he'll go up and make some. I mean, I think in the Arkansas game, it was the one-handed interception.
Yep, he had 2 interceptions in that game, and one of them was a one-handed.
Yeah, exactly, acrobatic one-handed catch, and then the next minute he's laying somebody out.
Well, the thing that's nice about Richard LeCounte is the moment he's on the field, you have to account for him. You can't let that guy roam around in free space. You got to put a body on him. He's going to be a disruptive force. The other thing about it is when you have Richard LeCounte or players like Richard LeCounte out there and they fly around and they hit somebody like they did in the Auburn game, I really think that call was made as a targeting call. Initially was the right call because it looked violent. It looked dangerous. And so they wanted to review it. Fine, throw the flag. Let's review it. They did. And then they stayed there for a while. and then they come back and they said, okay, we're gonna confirm it or whatever they said. I think that was done in the spirit of, we don't want this to get out of hand. This is a rivalry game. If he stays in the game, this is going to be a problem. Everybody and their brother's going to be after this guy. We just need to go ahead and put him out of the game now and just keep this thing calm. And I know for a fact that these referees have those conversations before games start, especially in high rivalry games, because they don't want it to get unmanageable. Because essentially they're the game managers. They have to.
I know LeCounte. He's definitely a clean player. I don't think he 100% was bothered by that call. By being called for targeting, more so for, like you said, for the inclination that he may be playing dirty rather than, actually getting the penalty. I completely agree with that.
Now he's the good thing is about the targeting call is he did go out in the first half. So he sat out the second half, so he'll be ready to go. He'll be able to play at the beginning of the Tennessee game. For those of you who don't know how that rule works, had that have been in the second half, he would have been out for the remainder of this particular game and the first half of the next game. So the good news is or the bad news is, he did get a targeting call, but the good news is it was in the first quarter. So he'll be back ready to go next week.
A guy like LeCounte, though, like we were saying, is as physical as he plays and how he hits. I mean, he's going to get that call on him every day.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of, it sounds bad to say it, but you kind of want him to, right? You want to be aggressive. You don't want him to pull up for fear of getting that call. You want him to know how to play the game correctly, lead with your shoulder, blow up the plays, and
drop the hammer.
Every now and then, one of these receivers is going to lay down in front of you, and you're going to hit him in the neck or head like he did. And hopefully you don't hurt anybody, but man, don't change the way you play. Go in.
Well, because as a team, you want that presence there. You want that tight end to know. You want that slot receiver to know that if he runs across the middle of the field, he's got to account for Richard LeCounte III. And I have seen more players drop balls because of linebackers and safeties that have that reputation of, I got to get my head turned around quick because I'm fixing to get trucked.
Yeah, you get alligator arms.
Yep, and then they turn the head too quick before they ever catch the ball, end up dropping the ball. And that's really what you want. Thanks, Christy. It was good having you on tonight, hon. Not an NFL fan, but I'll definitely watch LeCounte when he plays on Sundays. I will watch talent, but I won't really watch teams. And this season for the Falcons is an exact reason why. There's a ton of talent on that damn team, and they can't win the coin toss, man. It's just bad.
Yeah. Hey, we got to see. I don't know if you saw it, but Stafford threw a touchdown pass to DeAndre Swift this weekend.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I'll go back and find a highlight and watch that though.
Yeah.
All right, I guess let's. I'm going to do another show on Thursday, and on Thursday I'm actually going to go through the sports book and kind of pick them out for now. But if you've still got your ESPN rankings pulled up, I'm going to pull mine up real quick. You can tell when I start getting tired because my voice gets deeper and deeper. For the sake of this argument, I'm going to push Penn State to number 10, and I'm going to push Ohio State to number 9, and I may change my mind as we go. But I'm going to start out with Clemson in the number 1 spot. I think that's an obvious choice. They're handling business very well on their side of the ball. They also have an additional win over everybody here. So I'm going to go with Clemson for number 1. Alabama, I think, is a good spot at number 2. I think they've got a proven track record. They've got some depth. They're hanging, 50 plus on the board. Offense is obviously working. The defense is coming in line. They've got some new names that seem to be able – a new Jalen, by the way, which is terrifying. Seems to be able to get out there in space and do a good job. Georgia at number 3. I think this is pretty accurate so far. Florida, number 4. I would maybe, just in my opinion, I would maybe contest 4 for Miami and put Miami at 4 just because they do have a ranked win and they have 3 wins. Florida to number 5, Notre Dame to number 205th because they won't join a damn conference. I guess Notre Dame at 6. I would probably put Cincinnati Bearcats at 7, push North Carolina to 8, and then Penn State and Ohio State below Oklahoma State. And that give me my top 11. Baker's dozen, whatever. Hey, T. Davis, appreciate the super chat, sir. Thank you so much. T. Davis says, what up, big dog? What up, Brett? Big games this week. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Football's getting rolling, man. It's getting rolling. Michael Porter says, big dog Brett, do you have a cold? I do not have a cold, sir. I have allergies. I take Zyrtec every day. If I did not, Keith can attest to this. Growing up as a kid, I would have sneezing attacks to the point that my nose would bleed. So I have to take allergy medicine every day. So what do you think on that top 10 there, Mr. Bennett?
I mean, yeah, I kind of like, I'm good with Clemson and Alabama at 1 and 2. I think Georgia earned their leap back over Florida this week. They had moved Florida ahead of us last week, but this game this past weekend with Georgia and Auburn, I think was the first matchup between top 10 teams so far this season. So, so not only was that a good win against Auburn, that was a win against a top 10 ranked Auburn, and a game in which Auburn was never really in it. So Georgia right now is definitely number 3 above Florida. I'm okay with Florida at number 4, and Notre Dame. I can't leave Notre Dame at 5. I think Miami slides up into that 5 hole, and then we can, then maybe Notre Dame. But I'm kind of with you. I'd be okay if Notre Dame didn't even exist on this because, But I mean, this year they do have to play Clemson, so we will.
Doesn't that warm your soul just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, they're playing an ACC schedule, and so.
And not only that, hats off to the ACC for getting their stuff together this year and actually being a pretty good conference, man. You got Miami, who's in here. Obviously, Clemson's in here. North Carolina's in here. So if it's going to be a year where Notre Dame has to run an ACC gauntlet, I want it to be as tough as possible.
Yeah. I think a lot of this stuff is going to shake out. I mean, this is interesting rankings. This is very 2020-ish rankings that we've seen. It's I don't expect this to stay this way.
Right.
I mean, obviously Miami's got to play Clemson at some point, I believe, this year as well. They're playing on this weekend, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, this weekend.
And so, that's going to shake out. That right there is going to be a huge game. Just to let you know whether or not Miami's for real or is Clemson.
Well, if Miami stays in this game, and I don't think anybody's really going to pick Miami to win this game, it would surprise me if Miami won, but I've had other things that would be bigger surprises show up. Yeah. Miami, and here's the thing, in my opinion, with the way the season is kind of shaking out so far, if Miami just stays in this game, like if they keep it, within a touchdown score or 10 points, I would still have them in the top 10.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I could honestly see, and it's weird for this to ever happen, but I can see Miami losing this game, keeping it close, and not dropping in the rankings. I mean, I could see them staying at 7. Obviously some other teams here would move around. Georgia and Alabama could both move up or down, depending on what happens. Because who's Alabama playing this week? Or they have a bye week? Yeah, they're at Ole Miss, right?
Ole Miss, yeah.
So they play Ole Miss. Ole Miss isn't ranked. They play Texas A&M, which was ranked. Georgia, this will be Georgia's second ranked game in a row. This will be Georgia's playing back-to-back ranked games. So, but I doubt they'd move us up. I mean, even if we crushed them, I doubt they'd move us up just because it's Alabama.
I think we're staying. I mean, we're going to stay at 3 as long as we win. Clemson and Alabama both win. I mean, they all three of us play, pretty respectable schedules when you get down and look at it. But I'm really looking forward to seeing that Miami Clemson game because I just want to see I want to see what I mean. I think it's going to be our first real look at Clemson this year playing somebody that could potentially give them a run.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of surprised to see UAV score 23 points, and I was kind of surprised to only see they only put up 37 points against Wake Forest, and they only put up 41 against UAV. Now, you could come in here and say, hey, that's because, X, Y, and Z. They weren't trying to run up the points. But that's not their style. Dabo Swinney wants to hang 100 on you if he can.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, Clemson, just don't get caught looking ahead to that FSU game, guys. We don't – Hey, what's going on, James Willoughby? We've been on for an hour and a half, sir. You got to get that bell fixed, man.
Yeah, I think Clemson beats Miami here. I mean, I don't see Miami winning this game, but man, I would love to see that game come down to a final possession or a field goal to win or something like that.
Well, I would just like to see somebody give Clemson a run for their money through a normal season.
Right.
Because, I mean, you're going to get the SEC bias thing here, but I think that there's a lot of games in the SEC where, you get beat up through the season, man, and you just got to make it through somehow. Now, Georgia's schedule is front-loaded. If we can get past the front part of the schedule, it's going to be pretty good for us. But, man, we got to get through Tennessee, and then we got to get through Alabama. And then after that, it's not so bad. I mean, we still got to play Florida. And we get like a break between Alabama and Florida, but we're playing Kentucky, and then we get like a 2-week break where then we play Florida, and then after that it shouldn't be too tough.
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've got quite a few people in here. Really, and for those of you who are watching the show afterwards, feel free to join the live shows. There's a bell you can click on the bell. Just because you subscribe doesn't mean you're going to get notifications when the shows go live. You have to click on the bell. Otherwise, you're gonna show up and you're gonna be like, "What happened? The show just started." I mean, James Willoughby, he's one of our newest members to the channel, to the members only portion of the show. And I got to come up with a name for that. I don't even know what I'm going to name it yet. I got to name it something. But he's one of the newest members, and he almost missed a show. So you have to make sure that you click the bell. If the bell is there, unclick it, click it again. It seems to fix it for a lot of people. Also, we're trying to get to – huh?
There's a glitch for the bell on YouTube for the computer.
Okay.
So
do it on the app?
If you – I don't know if it's –
My son's telling me how to program a VCR. Hold on.
I don't know if it's on your phone or not either. But
okay.
I know on computer there's a problem right now.
Okay. Well, apparently my son has pointed out that if there is if you've used the bell on the computer, apparently it's glitchy. You may want to try using it on your phone. Unclick it and re-click it on your mobile app. Also, we're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers here as quick as we can. We need you guys' help with that. If you guys enjoy the show, please share it to somebody else. Please share it to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, MySpace, all that other fun stuff. Later in the week, I am going to be doing my hype and hate video for Tennessee. I've got some really interesting ideas I'm going to throw out there. I hope you guys enjoyed the one with Beaker and Gus Malzahn. Also, we're going to be doing the game predictions, points, score, who we think is going to win and what. This time I'm actually going to put it on an Excel sheet so it doesn't look like I was drunk at the Waffle House right now, somebody's phone number. Next, the thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to get to 50 members. If you guys would, those of you that are be interested in some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, we're going to be adding more behind-the-scenes stuff throughout the season as it goes along, and we're going to kind of go from there. Depending on how things shake out, we may have to transition the fan reactions over to another channel because I don't want to lose the ability to live stream for you guys. So the live stream show channel is Big Dog Brett Live. So you may want to go over there and sign up just in case. I'm not really posting anything on that stream right now, but in the future, should this stream go down, that's where it will be. So SEC Dog says, how is Clemson clearly number one from beating Wake Forest, the Citadel, in Virginia? 2020 is what I'm talking about. Trevor will win the Heisman. That is a possibility that you could be worth betting on.
I think Clemson gets extra points for having played 3 games. First off, they haven't really played anybody, but the people they played, they handled their business. And so I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, not only that, when you watch them play, they don't look like they've lost anything. They don't look like they've missed a step. They don't look like they're recovering. They look like Clemson from last year. They look like Clemson the year before that. Trevor Lawrence dropping back in the pocket, handing it off to Travis Etienne and throwing the ball 5 miles down the field and it being caught by an 8-foot-tall receiver.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look like they've missed anything.
And and I guess the argument will be that Alabama's beat Texas A&M, who is ranked 13 or whatever. But I don't put a lot of stock in these rankings right now. A lot of these SEC schools are inflated. Their ranking is inflated. It seems like nearly every SEC school is ranked right now. And if history is any indication, half of them won't be ranked by the end of the season. So, I think Texas A&M was way overrated from where they should be, and so I'm not really giving Alabama a lot of extra credit for doing what they did to Texas A&M. I'm good with the Clemson Alabama being 1 and 2, but you wouldn't get any argument out of me if you had Alabama 1. I think they're interchangeable at this point, but I think that the clear top 4 though is definitely Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Florida.
Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one there. What's going on, This Shadow Assassin? Wanted to say hello to you, sir. Well, guys, we're running on here a little over an hour and a half. I still got to go do a few things around the house here for the fam. I really appreciate you guys jumping on. Was there anything else you wanted to cover tonight, Mr. Bennett?
No, sir. I think we got it all out there.
Well, really, really appreciate you joining the show. It adds quite a bit of value. I know people get tired of looking at me, so maybe we'll keep you on here long enough for they'll get tired of looking at you. So let's put together. We're going to put together some stuff for the betting and sports lines. We'll do that on Thursday night if you're available. We really appreciate that. And we'll go from there, guys. So you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. You guys have a great day. God bless. Tell your mom and them, and go Dogs.